3 kilometres, 3.444 miles. It's a long way. We walked round it yesterday.
Occasion from Michelin this weekend. Now we know the Sepang International Circuit, it's all about the extreme heat and humidity that the riders and the teams have to face here this weekend, combined with incredible race. They said 2015, what was the race of the decade? For me, last weekend was even better. The race of the century in many respects. Was it somebody said that there was over 70 overtakes?
Though 7 years ago, won the 125cc race. He is a MotoGP winner. But as he said yesterday, I think he copied me actually, said, I've had my ups and downs here. I don't think he'd mind the rain. He's got happy memories here because he actually clinched his 125cc world title here in 2004, 13 years ago, by finishing. What can you say about Valentino Rossi? Just when you think, well, he bashed his shoulder in Motegi, he's recovering from the broken leg. And weekend.
Yes. I must admit, I've got completely different images coming up when you say that. But I just wanted to come in now because it...
Great result, and also a very good result the week before in the rain in Motegi. It's good to see.
Yeah, he was happy to silence his critics and prove his doubters wrong in recent their 2017 World Championship preparations. Maverick Vinales, we know, dominated the winter testing programme. He topped all 4 test sessions, but the man closest to him here back in February, the Tech 3 Yamaha team on that Wisdar M1. Dylan.
Yeah, guys, just wanted to butt in because one of our first men to go out on slicks, Paul Espargaro, he has come back in shaking his head.
Yeah, and what you don't get so often in Sepang is it's sort of mixed conditions. It either absolutely falls out of the sky or it's scorching hot.
Rain tyres, yeah, you can clearly see he's got that Michelin front rain tyre on. What a race from Johan Zarco last weekend. He said, didn't he, after that moment of contact with Jorge Lorenzo in Japan, that he wasn't going to be willing to...
It's now gone out on wets. We're just seeing Jack Miller. So in the Estrella Galicia box, they are now changing over to wet, and we are getting a few more spits of rain. So I think that the...
Bumped into him in the hotel, didn't we?
Yeah.
Just close to the airport here, and he was just telling us how much he was reveling in that fight with the likes of Valentino Rossi and Phillip Island 5 days ago. It cost him his chance to fight for the podium. So Vinales' last 5 laps were quite brilliant. In fact, he was saying that he was saving himself for a last lap attack, wasn't he? But the strategy...
Why is that?
Yeah, no, because the track is half dry, half wet. It looks like a little bit wet before the corner 4, like 4, 5, 6. Probably is the part where it takes more time to get dry. We see. I hope we can start soon to go.
Maybe this is what it will be like for the race.
You know, if you take easy, you're not going to test anything. So it's a little bit complicated. You have to go out. I wonder. I mean, it.
Very much.
Davide Brivio, I think, summing up absolutely perfectly. There's 37 minutes to go in this first practice session for the penultimate round of the World Championship. And the majority of the track is the other, as we see Valentino Rossi coming back in. Yeah, made his debut 21 years ago in the 125cc race at Shah Alam.
Petrucci's been absolutely dreadful. 21st he was in Phillip Island, the worst result of his career in his 98th Grand Prix, the first time actually.
Slow, morale boosting, a 5th place for him in Phillip Island. After, let's be honest, too many crashes. Motegi, there was a couple. Scott Redding, I think he probably wouldn't mind it wet. Obviously finishing his career here with 2 rounds to go, and he will be at Aprilia next year. And his man's got 50cc races here and got a good record also in MotoGP.
Guys, let me bring you down to pit lane with Francesco Guidotti from the Pramac team. Francesco, we were just talking about Danilo. I mean, I know the results, shall we say, haven't been there in the dry. How important is it?
If you, during the weekend, you have a very good confidence on the bike, and you can feel the difference between different settings, then you can...
With the wet tyre, go quite fast. The guys with the slicks have been coming back in. I mean, are you just waiting for a certain lap time to come up before you go out on slicks?
Yeah.
Front medium rear, Johan Zarco as well was just going out. He clearly had switched to slick tyres as well. 2:09.430 then from Bautista, the fastest lap pole record here was Danny Pedrosa, 1:59.053. I did print off some lap times from the test actually. What was Maverick Vinales'
crowd in Australia coming back obviously after breaking that leg in that trials bike training accident. as I say, yeah, had
Jack said it was an amazing feeling to be leading his home Grand Prix last weekend in Phillip Island. The first time he's been at the front of a MotoGP race since that famous win in Aston in the middle of 2016 battle. It felt like he was back in the Moto3 World Championship.
Yeah, it was very much like a Moto3 race, wasn't it? Mark.
Problem is as well, this is effectively going to be a lost session. You're going to learn very, very little in these kind of conditions, Dylan.
Yeah, guys, also to maybe add a little bit more frustration. As you can imagine, he's back.
Yeah, absolute. Either skies open that they do here and pour some proper rain down, or continue to dry up. Just spits and spots.
Come down. I mean, you can just see also from the guys coming in with slick tyres, you can normally, normally the entire tyre has a kind of a matte look to it because the whole
turn 15. There you go, 209.021 for the Australian as he comes up to this tricky turn 1.
It was last weekend for KTM's factory team, the first time their two riders, Paul Espargaro and Bradley Smith, qualifying in the top 10 in a dry qualifying session, and they
10 in MotoGP. They're making enormous strides. Here is Scott Redding.
Yeah, Redding was defiant, wasn't he, yesterday? It was revealed, or he revealed, catered to him, that he must let Andrea Dovizioso through. He did, and then we saw Andrea Dovizioso's rear tyre completely run out of grip. And Scott Redding actually passed Dovizioso coming out clear. Scott Redding did reveal that Ducati had instructed him at some stage to make sure that Andrea Dovizioso was allowed to come through.
This is Jack Miller piling on the pressure at the front, you've got to say.
Seems to come, from that side first, so like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the other parts of the track actually isn't too bad. The problem here with Malaysia is that you can't we'll sit tight, but it'll be good to try and bank a lap time at the end of this practice, just in case it does rain FP2, FP3.
But Bradley, some people might argue that it...
After just watching my teammate come out the saddle there, like at the end of the day, when you're in the race situation, you do with what you have, right? So,
It's perfect timing from Dylan, because that was a great illustration.
Yeah.
Just as he was asking the question, Paul Espargaro had a fair old moment, didn't he, on the KTM?
Yeah, Paul Espargaro was out the seat there. 7.74 then by Jack Miller. Means he's a country mile clear of Álvaro Bautista by 3.5 seconds. Miller and Bautista, the only two riders that have set fast lap.
Corner is a fast right-hander, and everything. Here it's so different, isn't it? That early, that first corner. I think, putting it bluntly, it's a Formula One. Ooh.
Yeah, there's only really two severe braking zones at Phillip Island, so it's in that second sector with some vigour. He's gone through it fastest of the session so far. So Jack Miller's 2:05.774 potentially coming under threat here.
Slot battle with his teammate Bradley Smith. They come up towards turns 13 and 14. That brings them on to get out there. Paul Espargaro moves up into second place, 2:06.786, and he's cut the gap down to Jack Miller considerably. It's just over 1:20 minutes. The majority of the riders will be out there. Scott Redding on a good lap and could take over at the front. Here he is at turn 15. On that factory at Ducati. Great race win for him here last year. It made up for he was so disappointed when he lost the race in Austria, wasn't he, to Andrea? Man, and a very different motorcycle. They have combined to make such a championship threat. And it is disappointing for the championship, the problems they had at Phillip Island.
Yeah, because we think that we don't gonna use this tyre during the race weekend. Then we don't want to waste one of the tyre that we think it will be a racetrack and it will change.
Okay, thank you, Davide.
Well, that's cleared that up. We still have 18.5 minutes to go. Zarco's just moved up into...
An argument, and something people have been speaking about down here, is that, yes, the harder option tyre you think would make sense for those extra hot conditions, but...
This is Marc Marquez, could go top, nearly 0.4 of a second up as he comes into the penultimate corner, turn 14.
Or is Marquez about to take it away from his two Spanish rivals? He is a 2:03.472.
But it looks like Johan Zarco will probably take it away from Marc Marquez. We ride with Marc
this year, having a 2018 spec factory M1 just to accelerate development and improve their chances. And both of them said, I'm not sure that's really a good idea.
He's 6th in the World Championship. He has been, I've got to say, I think the sensation of the season. I'm going to say so far, I mean, we are almost there, aren't we?
Slow. Then he will be the top independent team rider as well as Rookie of the Year this year, Johan Zarco.
Here is Marquez onto that back straight. Zarco may retake the lead. Let's watch Marquez first across the line. 201.609. Now, what about Zarco? His place at the moment, the World Superbike rider replacing Jonas Folger. Yeah, he's done a 3 laps so far. Been a good session so far for Scott Redding. Redding now.
Down there's Scott Redding.
I remember watching the late, great Nicky Hayden through there on the Honda, and smoke just pouring off that rear.
they were Casey Stoner's corners where you actually realise what an unbelievable talent the Australian was. Fantastic. He hit a few riders, didn't he, last weekend as well in Phillip Island, you know, and he did say the fast corners where you've got to carry on the lead angle, that is where the Suzuki is really, really strong. So great job. Alex Rins in that lead group for much of that Australian Grand Prix.
Since Vinales has got a good record here. When the 125 didn't score any more points and Vinales won them both, he still would have not win enough Grand Prix compared with Marquez to take the title. So his title challenge has gone. Mixed session here at Sepang, this penultimate round of the World Championship, but the track does seem to be drying out. That's certainly illustrated by the lap times. Dylan.
Yeah, it's certainly
in Aragon. Valentino Rossi decided he was fit to race. It was a good decision. Finished 5th in the race. But good to see Michael van der Mark on a MotoGP bike.
Yeah, Michael van der Mark has, of course, raced here previously at the Sepang International Circuit on board World Superbike machinery. Never have seen Toto Tamada in Shanghai and in Le Mans. So a long time since we've seen a Dutch rider competing in the Premier class.
Well, it's one of those countries where motorcycle racing is so popular.
Seat unit, I don't know if it worked loose or whether he was wanting some modifications, but it clearly was some kind of an issue for him. Oh, Marquez, he's got that wrong at turn 14. The rear stepping out.
We'll want to get in a banker lap because we really don't know what the weather is going to do. We don't know what the weather's going to do in the next half an hour here. That's the way it is in Sepang. As Jack Miller moves up
on this lap as well, he's been off the circuit somewhere. He lost 4.6 seconds. He's made a mistake. Yeah, this is probably the replay of the mistake.
That's that double apex.
Yeah. The only 2 men now left with a chance of lifting this year's crown are slugging it out late on here in this opening practice session in Malaysia.
Here is Andrea David.
How much wheel spin he was having. That's what allowed Scott Redding and Danny Pedrosa to sweep through and drop him from 11th to 13th. Didn't really have a massive impact in terms of the...
That 125cc world title, his only world title. He has been runner-up in the 250cc championship. Second place for Andrea Dovizioso. 201.26.
Not put in a new tyre for the shootout. Of course, there's not much sense until they know.
He's had 2 podium finishes, but Andrea Dovizioso. And let's be honest, there was a lot of discussion if it was going to be Dovizioso or Iannone was going to stay at
200.950.
They're very much in the same place as we just watched Dovizioso. Here he is into turn 14. This is where he made the mistake.
That previous lap was Marc Marquez.
Well, Lorenzo's up into 3rd place on the Ducati. So they look a lot happier than they did at Phillip Island, the 2 Ducatis.
Yeah, and the 2 men who'll be looking orbit in every single session, including the warm-up. And of course, rode that bike home to a top 10 in the race. The KTM really starting to come to the fore.
Here at Sepang in Malaysia is the penultimate round of the MotoGP World Championship. It may be the first practice session, but the teams and the riders are worried about the weather, so they are trying to put in a
4-0. So Bautista, I don't think he's going to get over the line as well for one more crack at this. It's going to be very, very tight if he does, but he could actually be going for 30. Up into 9th on the Octo Pramac Ducati. So Rossi 11th, and he's taken the checkered flag. Rossi will not be in the top 10 in this session.
Right. It's all happening at the front. Here's your top 10. Yeah, it may not matter one iota, but as we know, it can rain here so hard that the riders want to get those banker laps in, and they have.
He fired his GP17 through the speed traps at close to 330 Ks with that long back straight, that run between turn 14 and 5th session.
Very impressive session from Alvaro Bautista. In 2nd place on that Aspar Ducati. Here is Danny Pedrosa. Clutch problems for him. First rider on a MotoGP bike in difficult conditions. That's a pretty decent start, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he's got a former Moto2 world champion behind him in Tito Rabat, a former world super.
Well, here come Johan Zarco, who finished in 3rd place, and Marquez, who had his Two moments we saw, didn't we?
Yep.
Back in. What a weekend it is for the Spanish Honda rider, chasing his 6th world title. Zarco back in, logically in every way, just to put a bit of pressure on Marc Marquez.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do nothing more than go out there and try and put pressure on Marc Marquez. Marc Marquez potentially will have a different mentality this weekend.
It was totally different. Andrea Dovizioso then leads the way on that factory Ducati, running in 17th place.
Scott running there in 18th place, ahead of Jonas Folger's replacement, Michael van der Mark, doing a great. Alba Bautista we'll see up next. Bautista was one of the first riders out there on those slick tyres. 3 runs in that session then for Bautista.
Straight back in, but pretty decent stuff, especially in that 4th run. Joe
his 3rd run, which meant Vanderbilt Vinales was pretty safely inside that top 10. In 4th place, just a couple of tenths behind.
Leads the way, Marc Marquez, and he has done exactly that. After the first practice session here in Sepang, it's Andrea Dovizioso on the Ducati who leads.